You can feed an animal a bunch of, soy, corn feed nonsense. They don't eat that in the wild.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have perfect ability to get nutrients out of that. They're not going to have a perfect ability to detoxify those things. Ruminants are better at it, but still, like a grass-fed, grass-finished cow is going to be a little bit better. But,
And a ruminant is an animal that has 2 stomachs or something? Or
yeah, it's like a cow, and they have a sort of,
they
call it like sort of 4 stomachs, and they chew the cud and then put it back in. And so they have that, they're called foregut digesters, and their foregut is called their rumen, and this is like these multi-chambered stomachs, and they're just really, really good at extracting nutrients and breaking this stuff down. A lot to do with the bacteria that they cultivate in there, because no vertebrate animal can actually break down fiber. So they actually cultivate, they're almost sort of like bacteria farmers. That's what they do. They have this sort of chemistry set in their body that cultivates these bacteria. The bacteria are what eat the fiber. And
symbiosis.
It's a symbiotic relationship. So they feed the bacteria fiber. The fiber eat that and actually excrete as waste short chain fatty acids, which are 100% saturated. So that's what an herbivore is actually absorbing, is saturated fats as waste product of these bacteria, and then the bacteria die off, and the animal breaks that down and absorbs that as protein. So even though it's just eating,
it's amazing,
carbs and fiber and things like that, a gorilla or a cow or orangutan or whatever, what they're actually absorbing is fat and protein. And the majority of it is fat as far as calories. So it's like 70 to 80% of their calories are from fat. And so, and they talk about, producing methane and all that. So cows don't produce methane. First of all, they're not producing anything. They're not bringing these things out of thin air. But it's the bacteria that produce methane, right? And so if you, as a vegetarian or eating a lot of fiber sort of stuff, you'll actually produce more methane as well. You get bloated, you'll get gassy and things like that. And that's what that is, because of the bacteria that starts eating the fiber, they produce methane.
Can we replicate any of the bacteria that they have in our stomach, or it just doesn't align with human digestive systems?
So, depending on what you eat, you'll change your microbiome.
Yeah.
And so you'll start cultivating more of the bacteria that can eat that stuff.
Yeah.
And, but it's not going to do much good for you, because we don't have a big rumen, or we don't have what we used to have, which is a very long cecum, which is what our appendix is now. It's about the size of your pinky finger. But millions of years ago, that was 4 feet long, blind pouch. And that's what it is in other primates that are herbivores. This is I think that's one of the key comparative anatomical points showing that we are carnivores as opposed to herbivores, or at least we aren't designed to eat fiber anyway. Because previously, we would have had a very long cecum, and that's where fiber would pack into. That's where these bacteria that would cultivate and eventually break this stuff down, and you'd absorb the fat and the protein. That's what happens in koalas. That's what happens in gorillas and chimpanzees and orangutan, things like that. They're hindgut digesters. So they have this very, very long cecum and a very, very long colon. And so they are able to cultivate those bacteria and get...
because it's in there for longer time and it has more chance to process?
A lot longer. So I mean, the appendix, that's a blind pouch, right? And so when that's 4 feet long, that's a big tube. It can just sort of sit there and ferment and rot.
Yep.
And that's what it's doing. And then the byproducts of that is fatty acids and protein. And so that's what they absorb, and eventually it comes out. But even gorillas aren't really good at this. So they actually have to eat their own feces again. So they have to eat it a second time. So cows can sort of puke it up, chew their cud, bring it back down again. Yeah. Gorilla actually has to eat their own feces. That's how they get their B12.
It's like a Gold Coast supporter.
Yeah. And so, people talk about, yeah. Talking about, it's like, you can get B12 just by eating plants. It's like, yeah, maybe if you eat your own feces, but I'm not going to catch me doing that.
Eat shit and die is like a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
And our appendix now, is it just useless, or does it have some function?
I'm sure it has some function. You don't support any tissue without having some use to it, but it doesn't have that function. Yeah. Right. So that purpose is vestigial, right? So it used to be able to break down fiber. It can't now. Yeah. I think that probably has something to do with appendicitis, because what we're thinking now is that you get a fecal lift, so you get this, chunk of something stuck in there, and it stuffs up the opening, and then that bacteria in there just grows like crazy and causes a problem.
It's like your own ISIS. It's just a little suicide bomber waiting to go.
Is that evidence that we've evolved over the years to move away from fiber into meat?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So millions of years ago, right? So millions and millions and millions of years ago, that would have been a big cecum, but we have not eaten fiber in millions and millions.
Is that because we developed tools, hunting, and moved away from that?
So we might have just been foragers to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
That we didn't have the tools to kill a fucking saber-toothed tiger or whatever, but now as we developed and go, okay.
Yeah. And as an American, Christianity and religion are massive with science, and you've spoken a lot about evolution. So where do you sit on that, and how does that go in the States? Because it's...
Well, I mean, yeah, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, I have a lot of people that follow me, and some people do get upset about me talking about evolution. They get very upset about that, and I'm not trying to stomp on anybody's belief. These are my beliefs. I don't think that you have to exclude God by saying that there's evidence for evolution. I mean, I think it's much more impressive to have a God that created this infinitely old, infinitely large universe with all of this amazing complexity, and have us develop over billions and billions of years and creating a system that can do that. I think that's much, much more impressive than going, here you go. Yeah. Here's an ant farm, and then you're going to live in it. I don't think that's as impressive. I think so I don't think they're mutually exclusive. And so I do think that there's very good evidence for evolution. I do think that we see it now. We see viruses mutate and change. That's evolution. You get a vaccine for something that pushes the evolution of that virus in a different direction, because now it can't infect people how it is now. It has to change. Only the things that are not susceptible to that vaccine or someone's immunity are going to live. Those are only ones that are going to survive. So the ones that the old guard die out, and the new ones with a new mutation that allows them to survive goes. I mean, we see this every day, and so that's something I think is, I think there's a lot of evidence for it. Yeah. So I'm in that camp. I don't begrudge anyone, their thoughts on creationism or anything. But either way, we are designed to eat meat. Yeah. We are not designed to eat plants. And you can look at that in a lot of different ways, like the appendix. Yep. We do not have the ability to break down fiber in any meaningful way. We just don't. And so that means we should not be eating it. And that was the entire argument in the 80s, why we shouldn't eat or why we should eat fiber was because we couldn't digest it. We couldn't get nutrients out of it.
That's illogical.
Yeah, well, that's it. But they said everyone was getting fat and sick. So we stopped eating fat, and everyone started getting fat. But they, and so they said,
you are not what you eat.
So I did watch this, that I think a reel that you shared or you put up yourself with the South Park, turn the pyramid upside down. Yeah, that's right. Fucking hilarious. Yeah. But is it closer to truth than what you'd expect? So absolutely. Turn the food pyramid upside down?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and then just cut off a couple of the tiers, just stick with the meat and fat. Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys.
Let's get more into the carnivore sort of stuff. So you're suggesting just fucking cut it all out. Is that potentially because you're just like there's no way of avoiding the poisons that these plants?
I mean, they're pernicious. I mean, so all plants defend themselves that way, and so sort of big circle back around.
This is what the podcast always asks. We fully just go on tangents and come back.
That's what we were learning in my cancer biology class. That Brussels sprouts had 136 known carcinogens. White mushrooms had over 100. Spinach, kale, lettuce, celery, cabbage, cucumber, broccoli, everything. It had we literally were given pages with the name of the produce and the number of identified carcinogens, page after page after page. It wasn't a single one. I looked and I was like, okay, what's the lowest number here?
Yeah.
It wasn't a single one under 60. I'm like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking in my head, I was like, this is crazy. We were all looking around wildly. Like I was like, this must be a joke. Someone must be in on it, looking for someone smirking or something like that. Nothing like that. And finally it just dawned on us. I'm like, my God, this guy's serious. And I remember thinking in my head, I was like, but vegetables are still good for you though, right? I hated them. I never ate them. And he like, just perfect timing. I felt like he read my mind because he just looked at us and he said, I don't eat salad.
Maybe he was sponsored by the meat industry like the other professor.
Yeah.
He's giving you fake news.
Well, could be, yeah. But he said, like, I don't eat salad. I don't eat vegetables. I don't let my kids eat vegetables. Plants are trying to kill you. So I was like, right. So the thing is that a lot of the feed that goes to the animals or the byproducts, the waste products of the crops that we grow, right? Like, hey, we're not growing that for the cow. You know, that had, you know, something on the end of it, you know, that we wanted to use, and the stalks that go to the cow.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, you know, and they're talking about like corn stalks. Corn cobs and corn stalks and all that sort of stuff that gets churned up into animal feed. The soy, it's not necessarily like soybeans, you know what I mean? That's going to, you know, idiots eating edamame and things like that.